Up next is the exciting panel discussion on restaurant innovation during disruptive times. I would like to invite our moderator, Mr. Chiew Yu Sarn, co-managing partner, Yu Sarn Audrey, and fellow panelists to take over the stage and share more about the organization's strategies to stay competitive, as well as some of the digital innovations to ride onto the new wave of consumerism in Asia. Take it away, Yu Sarn.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. So it remains for me to introduce to you this very interesting panel that we have today. Okay, and today we're going to talk about innovation. We're going to talk about restaurant business. We're going to talk about how the pandemic has affected us all, but also to talk about what the future might hold for us. So today we have with us three very, very distinguished panelists, and they are very experienced in their respective businesses. Let me first introduce Mr. Alan Wah, and he is the CEO of White Restaurant. Now, Alan has more than 2 decades of global business and leadership experience in championing customer innovation and strategic partner engagements with successful business outcomes. His passion is in pursuing new growth initiatives and building strong relationships with key customers and partners. Prior to this new appointment, Alan was the head of Infrastructure Services Group for Crimson Logic, responsible for the global group. In that role, he was driving business and service operation strategies in customer digital transformation through technology solutions. Alan began his career with a number of MNCs and GLCs since 1993 and has held several management positions in both technology and system management. Welcome, Alan.
Thank you.
Next, we have David Leong, and he is the Business Development Manager of APAC for Subway. So where he leads the development for Subway in the region with over 20 years of extensive and progressive experience in delivering franchising management, QSR brand management, business development, operations, and training solutions across Greater China and the APAC region. Now, David is a seasoned food and beverage management professional. Prior to Subway, he was with American Dairy Queen and the Ministry Community of Youth and Sports in Singapore. Well, he has been in Subway for over 4.5 years and has previously held the position of Head of Operations for Subway China. Welcome, David. And last but not least, we have Gerhard Lanyi. So he is from Austria. He's graduated from universities in both Austria and the US. In 2003, Gerhard made his way to Singapore to pursue a career in local F&B industry. So for the following 19 years, Gerhard has managed, owned, and scaled numerous hospitality companies and projects in Singapore, Vietnam, and China. Highly visible projects produced under the uniquely Singapore banner of STB, such as the Black Tie Dinner Theatre, the Crystal Mirror, that premiered at the Padang in 2007, or Aqua by Grandstand, a multi-story container bar that toured the city and shaped the term pop-up retail internationally, making him a lasting name in the industry. Today, Gerhard spearheads the international development of the established German restaurant brand Brotzeit, operating outlets in Australia, Singapore, Hong Kong, China, and the Philippines, that he has followed and loved for his authentic German Austrian cuisine since 2006. Welcome, Gerhard.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, hello. I'd also like you to give a brief introduction, right, of your company and your role within that company, so that we can give the audience a little bit of a flavor of who are the various players at this panel. Maybe I'll start with Alan.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Alan Wah. So I'm the CEO of White Restaurant. Most people will remember us fondly as Sembawang White Bihun. We have about 22 years of heritage, and we are the originator of the Singapore iconic White Bihun dishes. So as of today, I have 8 restaurants. Of course, one of which is Cloud Kitchen, and I have about 200 over staff. So actually, I run the whole business on behalf of the company, and hopefully in the near future we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me turn now to David. Of course, we are very familiar with Subway, but maybe, David, you can tell us a little bit more about Subway's operations within Asia Pacific and also your role within it. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is David Leong and I'm the Business Development Lead for the APAC region within Subway. So Subway is a 57-year-old company. We are represented in about 113 countries, close to 40 over 1,000 restaurants worldwide. So in the APAC region, we have about 13 countries and we have about 3,300 restaurants in the APAC region. And we plan to double this growth in the next 5 years within the region itself. So basically, I take care of the business development, looking at new business model within the country itself, working with the local team to explore new footprint to outreach Subway to our guests.
Gerhard, tell us a little bit more about Broadside.
Broadside. Well, Broadside is a German restaurant and beer bar concept founded in Singapore here locally in 2006. So we're celebrating our 15th anniversary this year. It's a casual dining concept specialized in authentic German / Austrian Alpine cuisine, top quality German beer imports, wines and spirits. It features modern, urban, yet quite cozy environment. A couple of years down the road, in 2010, Broadside then started to franchise out. Then we had 5 restaurants in Singapore, and the first market we ventured into was Malaysia, later followed by Vietnam, Hong Kong, Philippines in 2012. That's also when we got awarded the title of Franchise of the Year. And a couple of million crispy pork knuckles sold down the road. We opened Western Australia and China. And I personally am heading up our international business, as well as the group's marketing and branding departments due to my strong retail marketing background. Excellent, Gerhard. So let's jump right into the topics. And I'll start with you, Gerhard, because you've a very distinctive concept. Of course, everyone is talking about how the restaurant business or the F&B business generally has suffered because of the pandemic, not only in Singapore, but also worldwide. So from your perspective, how has the COVID-19 pandemic transformed your restaurant business? And do you see that there are some subsectors that have been more affected than others? And how has your business fared? Starting from the end, how our business fared, I think all things considered, while we did take a couple of economic hits, both locally as well as internationally, we fared well, and I'm certain we'll come out stronger at the other side than how we went in. I think part of the reason for why we did okay was the fact that we were a mature brand. So speaking of some businesses doing better in these last 2 years than others, I think this was not the time when I would have wanted to be a newcomer to the market trying to compete with the big boys for customers' attention. We had the privilege of being well known at this point. Other ways how this pandemic has transformed our business is certainly that we have started to focus much stronger on digitalization and customer retention. And speaking of certain subsectors having been more affected than others, I think that if in these times you were very much dependent on the heavy footfall of a shopping mall in the CBD, then obviously you were very strongly affected. So if you were dependent on walk-ins, stronger affected than us. And then, of course, if you're very much dependent on on-site dining and you have sort of missed to see the signs of the time that to build a digital sales channel / delivery channel, then such sectors or businesses would have also been more affected than others. Excellent. So, so as I was
hearing from Gerhard about the challenges that he's faced. And I want to turn now to David again, because Subway obviously is a very different business model. So how has COVID-19 impacted Subway, which might be a little bit different from some of the other F&B businesses out there, David?
Right, I think very interestingly, when Subway was created, it was very much created in the sense that it's very targeted to individual or a party of two. It's not meant for a big group of customers that comes in and order sandwiches. So usually we'll see a basket size of 2 person, or most of the time we see individual people coming in to buy the sandwich or meal. So during the pandemic that started in started in 2020, we all think that it was like SARS. It would be gone in 6 months, but it didn't. We were affected because of the lockdown. Customers could not come out to the restaurant. We had to change. We started to rely on delivery business, and in some markets, because it was a full lockdown in the cities outside, for example, in Philippines, instead of selling the takeaway sandwiches, we actually created what we call the Subway market, where we actually sell bread by the individual, produce cheese or the meat, and the customers will actually buy them, and then when they go home, they will make their own sandwiches rather than we make it in the restaurant. So we created a few different models just to keep our restaurant afloat during the heightened period of the pandemic.
That's really interesting. So it's like people can buy the ingredients and then assemble it themselves when at home. Obviously, this is a viable strategy for a business like Subway, right, which is about sandwiches. But for a Chinese restaurant, Alan, right? White restaurant is basically a Chinese restaurant where number one, you have a Chinese restaurant. Traditionally, people go in big groups, right? And it's not as simple to sort of repackage your product so that people can assemble at home, for example, right? So, from your perspective, how has it affected you, and how were you able to overcome these challenges with innovation in your business, Alan?
Okay. Firstly, I need to share a bit. Okay, so White Restaurant is unlike like Paradise, Jumbo, which is very much of a premium restaurants. We are very much on casual family dining. So naturally, because it's a family-friendly restaurant, so most of our customers and family comes in groups, 3, 4, sometimes of course 10, which if bigger size. They will definitely our business rely on walk-ins. So when before COVID, of course, business are good, but once the COVID hits and the lockdown, right, totally is shut off from the fact that people cannot walk into our restaurants anymore. So fortunately, the time we were doing, before that, we were doing a corporate, buffet kind of style, sets meals and so forth. So we really have an online platform. So we quickly transform very quickly to, expand further to extend to families with our meals. And we do on bento size into a smaller scale format to deliver to our customers. But naturally, the business, shifted because of the dining habits. Most of people like to eat, but now because of COVID, nobody that goes out, or government, whenever they announce 2 to 5 people, 8 people, then back to 5, people get very edgy, very paranoid with, should I go or not go, vaccinated, not vaccinated. So the dynamic shift of people eating has moved, like used to be 80-20, now it's 50-50. And because of that, we have quickly embarked on our express concept and our cloud concept. Because our express concept was initially catered for the fact of the working class group of people, whereby they can go to eat on their own without having the hassle of going with groups. And the format of the food is a very fast, free, quick meal kind of concept. And then because of the shift of the dining to the delivery, we have decided to do the cloud, because if we have our delivery from our restaurants, not only we got to pay for the rentals, we got to pay for the new set of places for rental as well, and plus the commission, plus all the delivery fees. It's very hard for the business. So we decided to do a cloud format, and it's easier. And now it's better for us, in fact, on this delivery angle. So hopefully with this, things will change in our business model. Yeah.
So I think a lot of people have mentioned delivery, right? And of course, at this point in time, this really favors the companies that are sort of aggregators and they're doing the food delivery, right? But the question is whether or not the delivery part of it is really just is it really a sort of panacea for it, or I think what Alan has shared is also very interesting in that you've had to look at reduction of costs and to manage that whole process of food delivery better, even from your side of things. What do you see food delivery really as a long-term solution, or do you think that you need to evolve further to take advantage? I just want to open this up to anyone who wants to address this question. Is it really a permanent solution, or is it really just a band-aid for now, but you do have to change your business much more in order to take advantage of food delivery business model?
Maybe I share from my perspective. I don't really welcome delivery. Why? Because it becomes a monopoly for a lot of delivery platforms, because we rely on them to do delivery. Logistics cost has gone up. So we don't find any savings. And in fact, the customers don't get any savings. The business are affected, right? And it's also very hard for us, like food, Chinese food, how you maintain your wok hei, how you maintain the hot, the heat, the freshness of the food. So often enough, you have customers complaining, your food delivered here is mashed up, or it's spilled out because of the sauce, whatever it is the delivery drivers, whatever it is. But we understand that due to the situation, we need deliveries, because if it's not, we cannot bring our food, to our customers. So we are trying to see, how best can we work, or maybe there are really people who want to work in a collaboration manner to reduce the cost, so that it allows even people like in hawkers, in a kopitiam or whatever it is, they can do the business. Else it's very hard for them. We can see many companies, because of the delivery fees, because of the commissions that they're paid, they couldn't sell. Just imagine a chicken rice costs $3.50. Adding the commission, adding the delivery, it becomes $6.50. Will you think you pay for a chicken rice for $6.50? You'd rather go and walk to a hawker center and do a tapao back home, correct? So the hawkers will actually suffer more than the restaurant, right? But restaurant itself, you got to pay rentals, you got to pay staff fees, staff salaries and everything. It's even heavier burden. Although people see that restaurants makes a lot of money, it's not true. So with all these added costs, delivery is not a good option. It may be good for a bigger countries whereby you're moving from one to another distance about 10 kilometers. Yeah, it's fine. But within 3 kilometers, we have access of hawker centers, we have access of kopitiams. Might not be a good option, in my opinion. Sorry. Yeah.
What about packaging? I mean, can this part of this problem be solved by looking at packaging? I just want to turn to the other panelists to see, whether it is something that you are looking at, some other innovations that you're looking at to overcome some of these challenges.
I think for delivery, we used to say delivery could be about 20% or max 25% of our daily business. But during this entire COVID situation, we have seen that the numbers, the percentage of delivery has went up to 35, 40. In some markets or some countries, it went up to 50%, in terms of business. And we used to say delivery is an add-on to the business, but now it's already part of the business, I would say. And I'm not sure how long will we have to depend on delivery. As long as the COVID situation is around, delivery will be part of the business. And elevating the guest experience from a delivery point of view is something that we all have to start to take note of. While delivery are being sent to the home, there are a lot of additional packaging, from paper bags to straws to how we wrap the sandwiches. All this has to elevate, and in markets like, for example, in Indonesia, where we have just launched, in China, in Korea, or even Australia, we are starting to look at eco-friendly packaging, or those biodegradable packaging, and these add up to the cost. They add up to the cost to the individual costing itself. So I think we are lucky that because we are a global company, we have a lot of other countries that we could actually share some of this back-end cost. When I say back-end cost, means in terms of the packaging design, in terms of working with suppliers, and in terms of volume. So we were kind of lucky in the sense that we do have certain volume that we could write on for smaller countries to tag along with the bigger countries that we are working out with in that sense. And we are slowly rolling out no straws with our drinks. We tell our customers that, environment friendly, we do not use straws anymore. We use more of a biodegradable kind of packaging in that sense. So definitely cost is added up. But I think having said so, having delivery is definitely one way to continue the business, and that will allow a sufficient flow of the business to allow the business or the brand itself to continue to be able to survive in this market and to continue to evolve and reach out to our guests.
Thanks, David. I want to turn now to Gerhard and ask, more generally, I would say, what innovations have you has been a game changer for you during this very disruptive time for the business? How, on a larger strategic perspective, what role does innovation now play in your business, Gerhard?
How much time do we have?
20 minutes.
I think innovating our business and digitalizing it was really our focus over the last year and a half, or even more. Starting with the topic of delivery being online, even before COVID struck us, was key for doing well in the last year. At that point that we heard the first time about COVID, we had been on our own delivery channel. We had stores open on all the big aggregators. And similar to Ellen, we had developed a sort of a second or sub-brand, like an express brand, where we thought, if you can sell pork knuckles, you can as well sell pork knuckle burgers. If you can sell sausages, you can also sell hot dogs, and so on and so forth. So at that time, everybody started shouting COVID. I had 8 or 10 delivery channels open. So this was key to get through the heavy month of April, May, June of last year as a small business. And I think to the point of innovating our business, we were also, similar to what Ellen mentioned earlier, we were also a business that was heavily dependent on, or say very much used to, walk-in customers. The outlet behind me was our first in Vivo City, very high traffic shopping mall in Ramford City, Westgate, and so on. And we had a good 60-65% of our business was walk-in versus reservations. And we came to the conclusion, because of these times, that needs to change. Walk-ins I cannot talk to in times of crisis. Walk-ins I cannot email. I cannot ask them to order online instead of coming by. I have literally no means to communicate to them, right? So to the point, we implemented a CRM system that works well with our point of sale system, that over time allows us to build data on our customers, build information, what they like, what they dislike, are they walk-ins, are they reservations. We build communication channels, and we're able to sort of move from walk-in and being dependent on high times, economic high times, with walk-in business, to being prepared for crisis where I can, like I said, contact customers, re-engage them, and work on retaining customers rather than trying to gain new ones. So these are 2 examples of how we innovated the business. From there, we took it into the direction of loyalty for similar reasons. Loyalty programs and so on.
And I think that also sort of jives with what David has mentioned earlier about data, right? About the value of getting customer data, especially during these times when you don't have that face-to-face. I think one part of the restaurant business, I think at least for the traditional restaurants, is that you need to have that feel with your customer by being there and observing them, interacting with them. And you're absolutely right. During the pandemic, there's none of this and you don't have that. But I think this has meant that you have to evolve and you have had to come up with different ways. And I think this has actually created a new asset for you, which is the data, which I believe you can use even after the pandemic is over for the purpose of growing your business again once face-to-face is again available and dining in is available. So this is interesting. So now I want to turn a little bit more to maybe the positive side. Yeah, we're seeing some return to opening up again. Right, Singapore is in its path. I think PM has just said that we are perhaps more than halfway back to normal. Let's hope he's right. Let's hope the opening up is going to really, turn out to be, much quicker. So the question now is that as the economies are beginning to open up, not just in Singapore but also internationally, I want to ask about whether the disruptions, the innovations, how has that impacted your franchise strategy? Yeah, after all, we are at FLAsia, and in particular, I want to ask about the international strategy. And for this, I want to turn to David because Subway, you're in charge of APAC. Give us a little bit about what has developed for Subway during this time internationally, and maybe some things that may have surprised you about overseas growth or overseas market, David.
Right. So I think everyone might be aware that we recently had opened or re-entered Indonesia market in the month of October. This is a very different franchising model as compared to any other countries. As you all might be aware that Subway was always a very individual franchise business where we sell one restaurant, two restaurants to the individual owners. But in Indonesia, what we did was we actually sold it as a country franchise where the company or the partners that we work with will own all the restaurant and they will operate all the restaurant in Indonesia. So we just started the first restaurant in the month of mid-October, and we had just opened 4 restaurants within 2 weeks' time. Surprisingly, the response was overwhelming, in the sense that I guess because in Indonesia, the last 2 years was a pure lockdown, no people could go in, there isn't any new brands that were able to open up in markets, not even talking about closures. And with new brands like us going into the market, people were coming, we had to get event organizers to do queue management, so that safe distancings are being adhered in the restaurant itself. Obviously, the non-traveling to the markets to understand or to study the market itself has pushed back a lot of our development plans. Where we have inquiries, we have very strong companies that inquire about the brand, but as a brand owner, when we are not sure or when we are not able to assess the market itself, we literally have to depend very much on agents, or we have to depend very much on statistics data that we could gather from different venture companies just to help us to understand the economics of the market itself and to understand the partners. We took a long time to work with our potential partners to understand the business itself. Franchising is very interesting. Franchising is like a marriage. You have to go into some dating modes, try to understand the understanding of what they look at the brands. A lot of time when a new company wants to buy a brand, they are very positive about it, but after a while, things start to change due to the business model or the environment itself. So we need to make sure that the partners are always seeing eye to eye with us. We always have a common goal of how we want to develop the brand. And this is things that we have to spend a lot of time to get the groundwork solidified and the strong foundation before we even step into the embarkment of creating or building the restaurant in the market itself. Yeah.
So anything surprising that has come up from, the whole working with, for example, are landlords giving you a better deal? Or
I think in terms of leasing or rental or space, I would not say that we get better deals in terms of rental dollars. That is something that is not happening.
Right.
We are still paying good money. I mean, big money for the rental. But I think in terms of the lease terms, we get longer lease terms. We get better support from the landlord. In some of the restaurants, we are even able to renegotiate that the landlord help us to so-called pay some of the upgrading, as compared to previously where all the upgrading or the remodeling in the restaurant is all paid by the franchisees. So these are things that we could actually go back and negotiate with the landlords, to go for a longer lease or to cut the existing lease and then we sign a new lease with them on the new term. So these are things that we could work with the landlord. And obviously the landlords are very supportive towards the brand itself, and they also want to have a long-term partnership for us to grow together with them. Yeah.
Right. Excellent. So I want to turn to the future. So I want to ask again, each one of you, I'll start with Alan. What do you see coming in the next few months? Of course, everyone is hoping that 2022 is going to be a better year than the last 2 years, right? I want to maybe ask so that you can maybe share some of your thoughts about what, especially people in the restaurant business, how restaurant businesses really should be preparing and to take advantage of maybe some of the opportunities that you might see that's coming in maybe next year or in next few months.
Yeah.
Alan.
So Yu Sarn, you're correct. I mean, for myself, when I came on board to White Restaurant, I already have a 5 years to 10 years plan on what I'm going to do. But because of the COVID, we need to reshuffle and be flexible with the changes, and we have to really embrace the situational change and change your model of the business. So, for example, like what David said, we also want to go international, right? But we can't because we can't travel, so we can't do a lot of things. So what we can do is do prep work, right? We start connecting with like for example, in Japan, we connect to Japanese agencies. We leverage through Enterprise Singapore to touch base with some of the partners, doing some market research on countries that we would like to go into. And also through friends and relationships, people might be interested and we can start engaging and talk and see how can we then work on the model that they might do a JV or a franchise. So of course, for us, we look into a master franchisee because we like to look into, like China, Australia, Japan, even Thailand and Vietnam. So we have people talking to us. So we start prepping up. We start doing our, we look into our SOPs, make sure that it's correct. Whatever we do, our recipes, our central kitchen models and everything, so that when we have the chance to go, we already have a set of things to able to showcase to people. Of course, the other areas we look at is, if I cannot go and partner with somebody, how then can I bring my products out to overseas? The other way was to do on retail basis. So we start looking into ready-to-eat products, ready-to-cook, frozen stuff, and we start working with distributors and manufacturers and says, hey, are you interested? And we started doing sampling and testings, bringing to them and say, hey, do you think it's possible and all this? So we learn from there, and we start doing our own R&D in the backyard. And by the time it's ready, we ship to them, and we hopefully things will be better for us in that space. Yeah.
So Gerhard, what about you? Opportunities, growth opportunities, and what are you looking to do?
I think in terms of strategy change in the future, one thing that I'm really looking at is to turn away from the very small franchise partners in the past towards larger partners, master franchisees for certain markets, like David mentioned earlier about Indonesia. Reason being simply that larger business partners, partners that operate more than just 2 or 3 outlets in a market, are typically financially savvier than those small mama papa teams with 1 or 2 outlets as a franchise. So I think this is an important strategic mind change. Other than that, we have had our difficulties growing in the last 2 years. We're a concept that someone needs to visit, see, feel. But I'm optimistic about the upcoming months and years. I think that there's going to be opportunities in the retail market. sadly, because others just didn't make it. A lot of opportunities, outlets, space that goes that will open up in markets that until now were extremely tight, and was very hard to find good new retail space. That's one opportunity. And I think generally there's going to be, at least if we're looking at Europe and other parts of the world that have already come out at the end of that tunnel, more or less, when it comes to opening up the country, at least, we see strong economic growth and a hunger for growth in the market. So I think for all of us who are at least in part responsible for business development, it will be easier to find good conversation partners about furthering our business in the upcoming year.
And so I think everyone sounds quite optimistic. Yeah. So thank you for that. I just want to sort of sum up a little bit what we've discussed today. I think we can see that the more innovative companies have been, I think, more resilient during this time. I think what Gerhard has said is very true. The players that have emerged stronger from this are going to be able to take advantage of the reopening much better. And I think much of what underlies the strength is the ability to innovate and to pivot, to solve the many different problems in the immediate term, to evolve your business into different things. Alan mentioned about pivoting into retail, pivoting into a different part of the maybe the supply chain or the value chain, looking at different distribution channels as well. And David mentioned about the need to be very prepared. Yeah, you mentioned about working with the right partners, and also having a strategy to deal with the problems of the pandemic, coming up with new ideas. So I think it's really interesting how strong businesses like yours have been able to evolve and been able to survive. And I believe that this means that in the future your businesses will be able to thrive as well. So I just want to talk a little bit about IP, because that is what I do, and I think it's important to start thinking about your IP strategy as well, because as you have been able to innovate, it's important to take stock of what you have developed and what are the items that you have developed which may be relevant for future growth. Yeah. At one end, you need to think about your brand, especially if you have moved into a slightly different space from moving from restaurant, for example, into retail, into food delivery, into various types of operations and things like that. Yeah, we know of a lot of F&B businesses actually who have moved upstream. Maybe they have already a traditional strength in food manufacturing, and they've been able to operate things like cloud kitchens and things like that. So they've also gained a lot of experience, but at the same time, their brand has also moved, and maybe they're creating secondary brands for that. So it's important to take care of that, as well as I think an important thing that we talked about was data. How do you manage data? And there are several aspects of this. Number one, of course, is personal data protection. I think especially companies that are operating in China need to be very careful of that. The new personal data protection laws are very strict. So that's one aspect, and Singapore as well, and not to mention Europe with the GDPR, right? So the other aspect of it is really not only complying with the regulations, but also thinking about how data can be leveraged for your business, right? And how you can protect the data that you have as intellectual property, as confidential information, and really as part of the way that you conduct business. Yeah. So I just want to just sum up and let everyone have maybe one last, maybe one sentence of advice to all those out there, especially your people who are perhaps in the F&B business, or maybe just anyone who is trying to sustain or to grow their business during these challenging times. I'll start with Gerhard.
In one sentence, well, also in 3 words: innovate. I think keep moving forward. the head in the sand strategy doesn't work. Times are changing. We have to change with them. And I think those who keep innovating and keep looking at the glass half full will come out okay at the other side.
David?
I think it's about keeping the constant communications among the partners and to ensure that the end goal is all aligned and move forward together, making sure that nobody's drop off the team along the way itself. That's very important. And I think the other important aspect is to take care of our staff, in the restaurant, take care of our franchisee in the restaurant, because they are the one that are bringing the business and grow the brand itself. So I don't think we should forget them. They are the one on the ground facing the customers. Customers are having different type of expectation as the environment changes. So I think it's important to keep them in the mind and recognize the effort and things that they have been doing for the brand itself. Yeah.
So food is a people business, both inside and outside. Yeah. So Alan.
Yeah. So for me, I think collaboration is very important, forward thinking, and I think the last thing is also innovations. So I think for us, for the F&B, very much in Singapore, very few collaborations in terms of this space. And I think all of us need to work together as a Singapore-based company, or even Singaporeans. We should foster together as a group, and we go out the overseas market. I think that is something that we should look forward to. Yeah.
Excellent. So it remains for me to thank all three of you gentlemen, Alan, David, Gerhard. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yu Sarn.
Thank you everyone for the insightful sharing.